Diamonds aren't rare, and they never were. They're as common as gravel, and there's enough buried under our feet to hand every person on Earth a fistful. One company just dug them up real slow and sold you on the shortage. That's just the story. Now, everybody else is going to tell you that there was a control of the supply going on at De Beers, and that's true. That's the boring half, and hoarding rocks in a vault ain't really the trick, though. The trick was rewiring what you feel when you look at a diamond. Because the part that people really aren't leading with when they talk about De Beers is that you can buy the exact same stone, the same sparkle and grade, but the ones you can get today are grown in a lab for 80 or 90% less than the ones that De Beers digs up. Perfectly identical. And the whole 100-year empire that was built on the ones that were dug up, well, that's coming apart right now in real time. So how did we get from a rock to something that requires 3 months' salary? And why is the business that pulled it off suddenly worth nothing? Well, stick around. By the end, you'll see the exact trick, and you'll see where that one's being run on you today. So let's get into it. Here's something for the back of your mind as we go through this. The company that spent a century making a diamond feel priceless just got put up for sale, and they can't find a buyer. And that's the thought to hold on to. We're going to come back to that in a few minutes. But first, here's how the whole thing got built. It was 1866. A kid picks up a shiny pebble on a farm in South Africa. Word gets out, and within a few years, the place is swarming with thousands of diggers all pulling diamonds out of the same few square miles. Now, the thing that ought to wreck the whole business is they found too many. This was the opposite of scarcity. They dug a hole this big to pull out this many stones, and by every law of supply and demand, a diamond should have been worth about what a nice dinner costs, a common rock. Pretty, but common. Now enter a sickly 18-year-old Englishman named Cecil Rhodes. He shows up in 1871 and has one idea, and it's a monster. Don't compete in the diamond business. Become the diamond business. Buy every claim, every mine, every rival, bankroll it with Rothschild money out of London, and keep buying for 17 straight years. In 1888, he merges with his last real rival and locks it all in, De Beers Consolidated Mines. By the next year, 1889, one single company controls something like 90% of every rough diamond coming out of the ground on planet Earth. But owning all the rocks doesn't fix the real problem. There's just too many of them. So Rhodes and the men after him do the only thing that keeps a common thing expensive. They choke the flow. They dig them up fast and sell them slow, keeping the shortage artificial. A young diamond man named Ernst Oppenheimer actually wrote the rule down in 1910. The only way to lift a diamond's value is to hold back how many reach the market. That memo becomes the operating manual for the next century, and that's half of the machine, the supply. Then the other half breaks. The 1930s, the Depression hits, nobody's buying luxury rocks, and sales fall through the floor. And this is the pivot that changes everything, because they don't cut price, they change your mind. In 1938, De Beers hires an ad agency, N.W. Ayer, and in 1947, a copywriter named Francis Garrity, working late, tired, scribbles down 4 words: "A diamond is forever." Now, everybody knows that slogan. Almost nobody clocks how ruthless it is, though. Forever isn't romance. Forever is a business instruction. If a diamond is eternal love, you never, ever sell it. And if nobody sells, there's no secondhand market, which means there's nothing out there to expose what the thing is really worth. One slogan, and the trap is sealed shut. And then they just escalated. First, the ring should cost a month's salary, then 2 months, then 3. There was no ancient tradition here. They invented the number and moved it whenever they wanted. And a couple of generations of us saluted and paid it. I did. Blue collar, white collar, no collar, everybody paid the tax on love. But for the better part of a century, it held. 85% of the world's diamonds in the hands of one company with one story and one price that they got to set. That right there is about as close to printing money as anything capitalism has ever cooked up. So what breaks a machine that's so good? Well, first the law catches a piece of it. In 2004, De Beers pleads guilty to price fixing in the US and pays a fine. And then a few years later, in 2008, $295 million paid to settle a pile of more lawsuits. For decades, they couldn't even operate in America directly. A slap on the wrist for a company that size, but the halo cracked. And the thing that actually kills it, though, it isn't a courtroom, it's a reactor. So here's what's going on the whole time and why it's coming undone. De Beers was never really in the rock business. They were in the meaning business. The monopoly on stones mattered a whole lot less than the monopoly on the story. That a diamond is rare, that it's eternal, that it's the one and only proof that you truly love someone. Now, you control the story, and the rock's just a delivery truck. But the story moat is a rented moat, and the rent always comes due. Lab-grown diamonds are not fakes. They are chemically, physically, and optically the exact same stone. And in 2018, they cost about 10% less than those that were mined. And by 2025, they were between 80 and 90% less. Same sparkle, same certificate, just a fraction of the money. And now roughly half of the engagement rings sold in America today aren't dug out of the ground at all. And the scarcity was the whole product, and somebody just started printing the product in a factory. And the worst part of it all for De Beers, the part that gives the whole game away, try to sell a diamond back. Anybody who's done it learns the truth in one afternoon. You walk into a jeweler with the ring that cost you $3,000 and they slide a number back across the counter that's a fraction of it. It's basically a used car lot. Drive it off the lot and it's worth half of what you paid before you even actually hit the road. That gap was never fraud. The gap was the story being stripped out of the stone the second it leaves the jewelry store. What you paid for was never the rock, it was the marketing. And marketing has no resale value. Now, the thing I told you to hold on to, well, here's where we're going to bring it back around. De Beers' own parent company, Anglo American, they've been looking to sell this business for 3 years straight and slashed what they say it's worth. First $1,600 million, then $2,900 million, then $2,300 million. Book value from $9.2 billion down to $2.3. $500 million loss in a single year. They put it up for sale in 2024, and here's the kicker. The company that spent 100 years deciding what love was worth to the rest of us can't find anybody who wants to pay up for it. The house that scarcity built is now the thing that no one is rushing to buy. Now, what do you take out of this? Well, De Beers never sold a rock. It sold a story about the rock. And the day somebody could print that story cheaper, well, the rock was just a rock. So look hard at what you're selling or what you're being sold. Is the value in the thing, or is the value in a story someone else can stop telling? Because the trick didn't retire, it's everywhere. It's the brand that costs 4 times the generic one sitting right beside it on the same shelf that's probably made in the same factory. It's the limited drop, the members only, the price tag you never once questioned because everyone around you was paying it too. No, some of that value is real, I get it, but a whole lot of it is just a story that's held up so far. And, everyone falls for it every once in a while. That's not the shameful part. The shameful part would be never asking. So ask. On the big purchases, on the tradition you inherited, on the price of the thing everybody swears is priceless. Who profits from me believing this? Question the rules and the price tag that you got handed, because a rock is only forever if you never look at it too closely. Mull it over. So next time we're going to go from a company that sold us a story to one that forgot to tell itself the truth. Boeing, a name that used to mean safety until the people counting the money took the wheel from the people building the planes. How did a company that famous forget how to do the one thing it was famous for? You're definitely going to want to see when the bill comes due on that one. Take a hard look at what you're paying for this week, and we'll see you next time.